All right. I got a great question from a guy named Chris, who I used to work with. And you're a cool guy. You were one of my favorite coworkers. You were very funny. You made me laugh a lot. All right. So Chris wanted to know if I had any recommendations for starter guitars for people just starting out, want to play guitar. And I thought about this a lot actually, and I realize it's a lot more in depth than I thought. So basically, you can go online and you can type in starter guitars or whatever recommendations, and you'll get a lot of different like articles of people talking about really good recommendations for guitars if you're just starting out, and that's all good. And I would recommend going and checking that out. And I actually looked at a bunch and they all seem good to me. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to kind of guide you through the process of figuring out how to choose your first guitar. And so I feel like that's going to be a lot more helpful than if I were to just say get this guitar, for different reasons. So one of the first things that I would say is to just kind of think about what kind of style that you like to listen to and like want to play. So what kind of style do you see yourself playing? That's a really good starting point for sure. So if you like metal, for example, you can look into all your favorite metal musicians or whatever genre you like, and you're probably going to find that they're going to use similar guitars or similar brands of guitars. So for example, if you do like metal, you're going to find that there's going to be a lot of guitarists who really like to use stuff like Schecter or Ibanez, for example. And it depends on the genre. So I would definitely start there. But I would also say that let's just say that you found like your favorite guitarist and you really think his guitar looks great and you want to buy it, and it's like, whatever. Let's just say you have the money to burn and it's like $1,000 and you really want to get that guitar. I would say don't do that. Like, don't just buy the guitar that you think is awesome because that's who your favorite guitarist is or whatever. So I would definitely recommend not doing that, and I'll tell you why. I'll give you an example. So one of my favorite guitarists ever is a guy named John Petrucci, and he's in a band called Dream Theater. He's really good, and he plays a guitar called Music Man. And I feel like he actually made it really popular just because he's so awesome. So all these other guitarists started playing Music Man guitars, and so you would think that he's one of my favorite guitarists. Maybe you just get a Music Man. So the problem with that is I've actually tried out a bunch of Music Man guitars over the years, and I never really felt like I really, really liked them. And I think that just goes to show you that, even if your favorite guitarist is using a certain guitar, you may not like it. It's just because you're a totally different person. And so we have different hands, you know what I mean? We have different everything. We're just different personalities. So you might not gravitate to the same things that someone else will gravitate to, even if they play the kind of music that you like. I would recommend, if you do want to go, and you really want to play like someone that you really like, whatever, I would definitely recommend to try the guitar out first, and try out probably a whole bunch of different guitars just to see if you even like it. So another reason to go and look for a guitar based on the style that you like is I'm actually going to give you another anecdote. So a friend of mine, his name's Chris, and he's a great guitarist, and he plays live and stuff. He's awesome. He's a friend of mine since childhood. And he was telling me recently that his first guitar was a Schecter, which is actually what I have. This is the guitar that I play, Schecter. And Schecters are, they're known for basically metal musicians. So a lot of metal guitarists will play Schecter. And so he started out with a Schecter. And he realized as he continued to play, and time went on, that he was trying to make it sound like a Fender. And so Fenders have a different sound, obviously, and a different feel and everything. So he was trying to make it into a Fender, and he didn't even realize it. And so eventually he realized what was happening. He was like, okay, so maybe I should just get a Fender guitar. And so he got a Fender, and now he plays Fender. And he loves Fender. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you figure out what kind of style that you like and that what you want to play, like the kind of music that you really want to play, then, and if you go and look into those guitars first and see, see what guitars they play, that will save you time and it'll save you money in the long run. It'll save you a lot of, effort just trying to look for, experimenting with different guitars. If you just see the style that you like first, then it kind of limits your range in a good way. So then now you just have like, a select few brands to choose from, rather than kind of feeling overwhelmed with, oh my god, there's like 1,000 million brands and stuff of guitars. So if you do like, let's just say metal, look into those musicians, and you're going to find that they have those specific brands. And so once you do get that brand of guitar and you find one that you like and that you're comfortable with using, then that's going to be good in the long run, because you're going to find that you're probably going to end up ultimately with a guitar that's similar to that one, if it's the kind of style that you like. Okay, so the next point I want to make is that I would recommend personally getting a guitar that is cheaper rather than expensive. And for most people, that's a good thing. Most people aren't rich. If you are rich, who knows? If you are rich, then it's like, if you want to buy a really expensive guitar to start with, then by all means, like, be my guest, buy an expensive guitar. If you're like most people and don't have, a million gazillion dollars, then, I would definitely say buy something that's cheaper. And the reason for that is, if you're just starting out, you're not really going to be exactly sure what you like in a guitar initially, because you haven't really played guitar before. And so you're going to find that as time goes on, you're going to discover more and more of what you like in a guitar. You're going to figure out your preferences. Like, you might be like, I like when the neck is thinner, or the neck is thicker, or whatever. I like when the body is more curved, or whatever you want. But you're going to find it out more and more as you go. So with that being said, I would say that if you get a cheap guitar initially, I would say later on there's a good chance that you're going to realize that first guitar that you got might not be exactly what you want. And like I said, it takes time to realize that. And so better to buy a cheap guitar, and eventually as you realize what you like, you get a different one, than to buy a really expensive starter guitar and then realize that you don't like it, and then you're like, oh cool, I just wasted $1,000 on a guitar and I don't even really like it anymore. Again, that's just your call. If you have the money, you can get a really expensive guitar, whatever. But yeah, that's just, again, it's just to save you money and time down the line. Another point I wanted to make is that, kind of along those same lines, kind of getting guitars is sort of like dating, actually. So the first guitar that you get, kind of like the first date that you ever go on, ever, is probably, it's not very likely that it's going to be, the one. It's like the very first guitar that you get, it's not going to be your soulmate guitar. There's a lot of sort of trial and error and experimenting with different things, and then realizing, oh, I like this quality, I don't really like that quality. So it's actually very similar to dating. Part of it is that it's not a gigantic deal what your first guitar is. Like, it's still important, but like, just don't expect it to be like the one. Like, I have to figure out exactly the guitar that I want, the best one. It's like, you're probably not going to, because it just takes trial and error and effort, experimenting with different things, and just playing a lot. And the more you play, the more you realize what you want. Just like dating, Alright, so my next point is, there's going to be some people who will say the first guitar you get should be an acoustic guitar. I think that's just an opinion. It's like, okay, just to say, like, flat out, you don't need to get an acoustic guitar. Like, some people will say get an acoustic guitar, regardless of what style you like. It'll help to build finger strength and stuff and whatever. It's like the standard way. I don't know. I would say personally that, yeah, if you like acoustic music, you can get an acoustic guitar. Like, totally. Go get an acoustic guitar. If you like music that uses electric guitars and you don't want to get an acoustic, you want to get electric, go get an electric. Like, just basically do what you want to do. If you play electric or you want to play electric and you also want an acoustic guitar, then yeah, again, get an acoustic guitar, but only get one if you really want one. That's what I think. Because at the end of the day, an acoustic guitar is very different feeling than electric. So if you see yourself playing an electric guitar, but you've been practicing on an acoustic, it's just going to feel very different once you transition to electric. So you might as well just start with an electric. That's what I think. Everyone has different opinions on that, but that's what I think. Just do what you want to do. Do what you want. Go in the direction that you want to go in based on the style of music that you want to play. Another thing is you don't... I said that your first guitar it's not the most important decision that you'll make. It's like I said, you're going to experiment with stuff and figure out down the line what you want. But you also don't want like a crappy guitar, like one that just is really shitty. You don't want that. And so I was thinking about it, and I'm trying to come up with like decent guitars, and there's a lot out there. Again, you can look on those articles that I mentioned online. There's going to be a lot of good guitars there. So I'm going to give you another anecdote, another little story. So my very first guitar was a BC Rich Warlock, and it's a very metal guitar. It's very spiky, and literally the only criteria I had when I bought the guitar, I was 15 years old, was I want to get the coolest looking guitar I could find online. And that was literally the only criteria. And I found it, and I was like, this is the coolest guitar I can find, a BC Rich Warlock. And it was $150. And I liked it, but I also didn't really have anything to compare it to because I was just starting out, kind of. So there was this time, I was 16 years old, so a year later, I was at my friend's house, and he had a Fender. He was just starting out too. It was like a Fender Squire. It's probably like $200 or something like that. And I brought my BC Rich Warlock. And so I'm looking at his guitar. I'm like, that doesn't look very metal to me. That doesn't look that cool or whatever. And so we switched guitars, and he was playing mine, I was playing his. And I'm playing his, and it was like, I was like, almost like I didn't want to admit it, but his was better. And I don't think it was even a subjective issue, it was just better. It was just a better quality guitar. So there are going to be guitars, different brands, that are just better quality. I think, based on my experience, that Fender is at least better than BC Rich. Probably a lot of brands are better than BC Rich, although BC Rich might be the coolest looking brand. There might be other people who would argue otherwise, but that's what I think. Fender is a very versatile kind of guitar. There's people who use Fender who are just starting out. There's people who use it who are still playing, or like master guitarists, and they're using Fender. So it's very versatile. All different genres. So there's metal musicians who play Fender, like Yngwie Malmsteen. He's like one of the greatest shredder musicians of all time, and he plays Fender. And then all different genres. It doesn't even matter. It's very versatile. And it's a good quality brand, I think. And so, if I were to recommend a certain brand, it would probably be Fender. And then one more thing I want to say about the money thing is, I would say probably pick a starter guitar somewhere between maybe $150 to $250, because I was talking about being, cheaper about it. Maybe $300 at the very max. But yeah, I don't think I would personally go any higher than that. Like, for the reason I was just talking about. It's like, you don't really want to invest so much money into this guitar, and it may not be the one that you really end up with. But then the other point is that if you do choose a guitar that's closer to the style that you like, and you look into it like I was saying, and you do some research, then you'll definitely end up with something that's closer to what you will probably ultimately end up with. That's what my logic is. And so anyway, thanks again for the question and asking me to make this video. I really appreciate that. And again, it was great working with you those years ago, and I hope you're doing well still. Alright, man. I'll see you later. See you.